Shalom Aleichem and welcome to chapter 14 as we look at imperfect verbs. Now in the previous chapter we're looking at perfect verbs. In chapter 14 we are looking at imperfect verbs. So let's get started. Let me start by reminding you or giving you the basic idea of an imperfect verb. And so the imperfect verb describes an incomplete or ongoing action. So when you're looking at an imperfect verb, this verb shows an incomplete action that is not completed. And at times, it can be action that is ongoing. And so because it's incomplete, because it's not completed, it's normally translated as a present or future action, present or future tense. And we can compare it to the perfect tense that we looked at in chapter 13. The perfect tense describes an action that is completed or whole. The action is completed. And that's why the perfect tense is normally translated as the past tense. Imperfect, present or future tense. So imperfect, incomplete action, perfect, complete action. So for now, when you think about the imperfect conjugation, think about it as the future tense in the active voice. Future tense. Let's move. Now, if you remember what we said in chapter 13, we said the perfect tense is called a affirmative verbal form. Why? Because it adds suffixes. It adds suffixes to the stem, to the root. For example, you have shamata, shamata, that ta, that's a suffix. And another one is here, shamati, shamati, that t is a suffix. And so verbal forms that add suffixes are called sufformative, and that is the perfect tense. But when you come to the imperfect tense is called preformative, preformative verbal form. Why? Because it adds prefixes to the stem. And we have these examples. Tishmor, Tishmor, meaning you guard. And another one is here. Eshmor, meaning I will guard. Tishmor, Eshmor. That T, the prefix T and the prefix E, those are signs of the imperfect tense. So I want to repeat, imperfect adds prefixes. Perfect adds suffixes. That is very important for you to know. Very, very important. And again, you can see that the perfect is translated as a past, completed action, I guarded, while the imperfect is future tense. I will guard, you will guard. For now, think about the imperfect conjugation as a future tense, as a future tense. When you're translating, for now, translate it as a future tense. Alright, let's move. Let's look at the prefixes that you're adding. This is a paradigm for the imperfect tense, and these are the prefixes that you add to words. Again, the imperfect is called preformative tense because it has prefixes. Remember, in the perfect we had with the suffixes at the end, but the imperfect has prefixes right at the beginning. So it's preformative. Now, even though it's called preformative, you can see that in some cases it adds suffixes. So in these four places, it's going to have suffixes. But because the prefixes are more, it's called preformative. It's a preformative tense. So know that it's called preformative. Now, let me just point out some hints. Hints are going to help you to know the chart quickly. And so these are the things that you need to notice. The first one, all prefixes on the middle start with T. Notice all the prefixes that are on the middle, they start with T. And secondly, the 3FP and 2FP are identical. 3FP and 2FP are identical. Also, we have identical ones, 3FS and 2MS. You have 3FS and 2MS. Those are also identical. Identical means they are the same. They are the same. They have same forms. So that's very important to notice. And finally, the third singular and third plural forms, masculine plural forms, all start with ye. You have ye here and ye here. All of them start with ye. And notice our chart is starting with the third masculine singular, just like the perfect. So you start with the third and end with the first. Why? Because the forms are coming from the third. So we're going to maintain that pattern. So follow these hints and they'll help you to know the chart or the paradigm easily. And I need to say that you need to master this paradigm. This is a paradigm for the prefixes on the imperfect tense. And so use the hints to master it easily. Let's move on. Let's look at how to add these prefixes to the verbs. On the left you have the prefixes, and on the right you have example of how to add them. Now before I go through the chart, let me go through the hints again so that you can see what we're talking about. I said that the middle ones all have T. They start with the prefix T. As you can see, all middle ones are having T, 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 T. That's one key. The second one, 3FP and 2FP are identical. 3FP, you have tiktona, tiktona. It's the same form that you put on 2FP. 2FP, you have tiktona, tiktona. So they're identical. Also, 3FS and 2MS are identical. 3FS and 2MS are identical. You have tikto, tikto. You have tikto here and tikto here. Those are identical. They're the same. The translation may be different, but the forms are the same. And that will save you a lot of time in learning the chart. And finally, notice that all the prefixes start with hirek. All the prefixes start with hirek. The only exception is 1CS, first common singular. This one here, ektor. Ektor is starting with sego, but all the others start with hirek. And so that is very important also. So you're going to put hirek everywhere except in 1CS. 1CS has sego, sego. Here's a final hint that is going to save you a lot. And this is the pattern for the imperfect conjugation. Remember, we had a pattern for the perfect conjugation. This one is the pattern for the imperfect conjugation. Here's a hint. All the first root letters take schwa. All the first root letters take schwa. If you can see the kaf throughout is taking schwa. That's the first root letter. Remember, verbs are built on 3 root letters, and I'm saying the first root letter is going to take schwa. And on top of that, always the second syllable from the tone syllable takes a schwa. I want to repeat. The second syllable from the tone syllable is going to take a schwa. Now you know that tonation is always put on the last syllable. So the second is going to be the second from the last syllable. The second syllable from the last is always going to get a schwa. Always going to get a schwa. So let me go through the chart. You have yikto, yikto, 3MS. And then next you have tikto, tikto. Next you have tikto, tikto. Next you have tikteli, tikteli. And then you have ekto, ekto. Then you have yiktelu, yiktelu. Then you have tiktona, tiktona. Notice I'm putting the emphasis on tona because we have an accent there. So it's tiktona. Accents are going to show you where you put emphasis. Tiktona, tiktona. And then next we have tiktelu, tiktelu. Next we have tiktona, tiktona. So these are the same. Next we have, and finally we have nikto, nikto, nikto. That's how you're going to add the prefixes to the verb forms. And notice the imperfect form has also some parts where it has suffixes. It has 4 parts, and so you need to know those 4 parts. But otherwise, the major ones are prefixes. And that's how you add them. Now, since we've looked at the perfect conjugation, the perfect tense, let's see the difference between the perfect tense and the imperfect tense. And here we have the perfect tense or conjugation on the left, and we have the imperfect tense or conjugation on the right. So we have perfect tense, imperfect tense. What are the differences? Here's something that stands out. The perfect only has suffixes. The perfect only adds suffixes. You can see, it only adds suffixes at the end. So it only has suffixes. And that's why it's called sufformative. It adds suffixes only. But if you can see the imperfect is called preformative because it adds prefixes. It's having prefixes throughout, while the perfect tense has suffixes only. So you have preformative and sufformative. Performative, sufformative. And this is the most important difference, that the imperfect adds prefixes and the perfect adds suffixes. That's very important. So if you are looking at a verb, if you see a verb with just suffixes, that verb is in the perfect tense. If you see a verb with prefixes, that verb is in the imperfect tense. That will save you from mixing the two up. And so know that difference, and that will help you a lot. Alright, let's look at the imperfect tense and see how to attach different verbs to the prefixes. Let's go through the chart. And we're using the verb shama. Shama means he kept, and that is in the perfect tense. Now, to make it imperfect, you're going to add prefixes. So it's going to be yishmor, he will keep. And then we have 3fs, tishmor, she will keep. 2ms, tishmor, you will keep. 2fs, tishmeri, you will keep. And then 1cs, eshmor, I'll keep. I'll keep. On the plural forms, we have yishmeru, they will keep. And then we have tishmona, they will keep. Tishmeru, you will keep. Tishmona, you will keep. And finally we have nishmor, which means we will keep. We will keep. Now remember, the translation is future. Now there are exceptions to that, but for now we are going to translate the imperfect as future tense. As future tense. Again, here are the identicals. Here are forms that are identical. The first one is 3fs and 2ms. 3fs and 2ms. You have tishmor and tishmor. And another one that is identical is 3fp and 2fp. 3fp and 2fp. On 3fp you have tishmona. Tishmona. Tishmona means they'll keep. And 2fp you have tishmona. Tishmona, which means you'll keep. You'll keep. So these ones are identical. And notice the form is identical, the spelling is identical, but the translation is different. What is identical is a form, the spelling is identical, but the translation may be different. And so context needs to guide you. Context will always guide you. Another one that looks identical, but the prefix is different is this. This one is 3mp, where you have yishmeru, and 2mp, where you have tishmeru. These ones are identical also, except on the prefix. You have ye, here you have t, but the rest of the spelling is the same. That's going to save you a lot of time when learning this, when learning the chart. And so use those tips to help you. Let's look at how we can add different verbs to the prefixes. Alright, so we have three examples here. We have three verbs. We have katav, we have katao, and we have shama. Katav, katao, shama. All these verbs we have already seen. Katav means he wrote. Katao means he killed. Shama means he kept. So let's look at how these can be turned into imperfect verbs. And just to mention the most important thing, imperfect tense has a pattern. It has a pattern. And once you memorize this pattern, you can insert any three root consonant, and those consonants are going to balance. They're going to be correct. Again, as long as they're strong verbs, those are going to balance. Now, what is that pattern? The pattern has two things. The first thing is this. The first root letter always takes shua. The first root letter always takes shua. Not the prefix, but the first root letter. The kaf in this case, when you're on katav, katav has kaf. So the first root letter is going to take shua. And if you're on katao, it's going to be kof. So kof is going to take shua. If you're on shama, it's going to be shin. That shin is going to take shua. The first root consonant always takes shua in the imperfect. And secondly, this one is the same as the perfect. The second pattern is this. The second from the last, the second syllable from the last always takes shua. The second syllable from the tone syllable from the last always takes shua. Those are two very important patterns. If you know them, you're going to know how to conjugate any strong verb in the imperfect tense. Alright, let's look at the examples. And these are singulars. Next, we're going to look at plurals. So katav is going to be yiktov, tiktov, tiktov, tiktavi, ektov. Katao is going to be yikto, tikto, tikto, tikteli, ekto. Shama is going to be yishmo, tishmo, tishmor, tishmeri, and finally eshmor. That's how you conjugate these verbs. So what I want you to do is to practice, get any verb that is strong, get those verbs and try to conjugate them and see if you have understood what we mean. Learning to conjugate is very important. That is very important. Alright, here we have the plurals, and the plurals, the pattern is still the same, only that these are going to be plural in translation. So katav is going to be, in the third masculine plural, is going to be yiktevu, and then you have tiktovna, and then you have tiktevu, and then you have tiktovna, and in the first common you have niktov, niktov. Katav is going to be yiktelu, and then you have tiktona, then you have tiktelu, and then you have tiktona, then you have nikto. Shama is going to be yishmeru, tishmona, tishmeru, tishmona, and nishmor. That's how you conjugate verbs in the imperfect. Remember, conjugation means you are touching the prefixes and sometimes suffixes, and also you are translating. That's conjugation. Alright, let's look at passing. Let's look at how we pass imperfect conjugation. And so let's try to pass and translate the verbs. The first verb we have tiktevu, tiktevu. How do you pass this word? Now here's a hint. For now, as long as we're in Hebrew 1, this course, the stem will always be cow. The stem will always be cow. But now the conjugation has changed. We're now looking at the imperfect. In the previous, we're looking at the perfect. So in this chapter, in chapter 14, all the verbs are going to be in the imperfect. But in the quiz, there will be a mixture of imperfect and perfect. And so you need to know the difference. You need to know that difference. Alright, so tiktevu. Tiktevu is going to be stem cow, conjugation imperfect. Person, gender, and number is going to be 2MP. 2MP. Why is it 2MP? Tiktevu is going to be, is on the second masculine plural. Second masculine plural. It means you. Now, what's the lexical form? Remember, the secret to lexical form. Remove the prefix and remove the suffix and remove all vowels. You're going to remain with kaf, tau, and bet. Kaf, tau, and bet. Now, under kaf, put kametz, and under tau, put patach. What you're going to have is katav, katav. And that is the lexical form. Remove the suffix, remove the prefix, and remove all vowels, put kametz and patach. That will be your lexical form. And katav means he wrote. So this one is going to mean, tiktevu is going to mean you write. You write. Second person plural, you write. Next you have yimlekhu. 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 How do you pass this word? Now, this is a bit similar to the previous one. The previous one was T, but this one is Yi, Yimleku. How do you pass it? You look at the prefix, the Yi prefix. Yi is found in the third masculine plural, 3MP, and third masculine is translated as they. Now, what does it mean? You're going to look at the root. The root is Mem, Lamed, Kaf. And if you remove the prefix and suffix, you put the vowels under, you put kametz and patach, you have malach, malach, and that means he ruled, he ruled. So in 3MP it's going to be they will rule, they will rule. Future tense, they will rule. Next you have the word nishmor, nishmor. How do you pass this word? Now remember that ni is first common. The ni is first common plural. A singular form is starts with sego, but in the plural, in the first common plural you have ni. The ni prefix is 1CP. So this one is 1CP. And the translation is we. Now to find the meaning, you look at the root. That is coming from shama, shama. The lexical form is shama. and shama means he kept. So it becomes we will keep. Future tense, remember future tense? We will keep. Imperfect is future. We will keep. We will keep. Next we have the word tiktevi. Tiktevi. How do you pass this word? Tiktevi. And tiktevi is 2fs. 2fs. And the lexical form is katav. He wrote. Katav. He wrote. Remember, lexical forms are coming from the perfect, the third masculine singular perfect. Not imperfect, but perfect. Katav. Katav means he wrote. But in the imperfect becomes a future action. So it becomes you write. You write. You write. From the word katav. Lexical form, katav. So two things here important. You have T prefix and E suffix. Let's move on. Next we have tiktona. Tiktona. How do you pass this one? Now remember, this one had an identical. It had an identical, so it has two options. It can be 2FP or 3FP. It can be 2FP or 3FP, depending on the context. This is coming from katao. Katao means he killed. And so if it's 2FP, it's going to be translated as you kill. In imperfect, it means you kill. 2FP, you. Second person, you. You kill. And if it's 3FP, it becomes they. They will kill. They will kill. That's how you translate it. Lexical form is katao. Katao. Next we have the word timloch. Timloch. How do you pass this one? Notice that this one has no suffix. It only has the T prefix. And this T prefix has an identical. It has an identical. It can be 3FS or 2MS. It can be 3FS or 2MS. And if it's 3FS, it's translated as she will rule. Third feminine, she will rule. She will rule. And if it's 2MS, it's going to be you will rule. You will rule. You will rule. So for those that have identicals, if you're told to pass them, you can choose. Just choose one and translate it accordingly. Lexical form of timloch is malach. Malach. Alright, that's on passing. Remember, practice, practice, practice. That's how you learn Hebrew. Let's look at examples on translations. Let's look at examples on translations. How do you translate imperfect verbs? I'll try to be quick on this. The first one is We'al penei ko echal yishkon. We'al penei ko echal yishkon. And the verb there you have yishkon. How to translate this phrase? Let's look at the verb. The verb is 3ms. And that verb is coming from shakan. Shakan. Shakan means he dwelt. He dwelt. So in the imperfect, with that prefix ye, it becomes he shall dwell. Future tense. He shall dwell. So at the beginning you have we'al. That's conjunction wow. And then you have preposition al, which means above. It means on or above. So you have and above. Then you have penei. So penei is coming from panim. Panim means faces. So it becomes in the face of or in the presence of. So you have and above faces of. It's in the construct. Penei is in the construct. It becomes faces of. Then we have ko. Ko means or. Ko means or. Echal. Echal is coming from the word ach. Ach means brother. Echal has pronominal suffix. So echal means his brothers. His brothers. The last one you have yishkon. Yishkon. He will dwell. He will dwell. Future tense, remember, imperfect is future tense. So together you have and above faces of all his brothers he shall dwell. And that is translated in English, and he shall dwell in the presence or in the faces of all his brothers. In the faces of all his brothers. Next we have the phrase Timloch tahat waishti. Timloch tahat waishti. How do you translate this phrase? The verb is timloch. How do you translate this phrase? Now, timloch is a 3FS, third feminine singular. Third feminine singular is translated as she shall be or she will be. Now, this word is coming from malach. Malach means he ruled. In the imperfect, it becomes she shall be queen. Now, we can say this as she shall rule. Now, it's specific because it's third feminine. It's third feminine. If it was third masculine, we'll say he shall be king. So again, it's correct to say she will rule. That's correct. But also it's correct to say she shall be queen. She shall be queen. Tahat. Tahat means instead. In the place of, instead. And then we have washti. Washti. Washti is Vashti. Queen Vashti. That is Queen Vashti. So you have Tahat Washti. And that is instead of Vashti. Instead of Vashti. She shall be queen instead of Vashti. Esther 2 verse 4. And then we have Lo Tignov. Lo Tignov. Remember the word lo? Lo means not. Lo means not. So you have not Tignov. Tignov comes from the verb ganav. Ganav. Ganav means his store. His store. So tignov means you shall steal. You steal or you shall steal. It's in the imperfect now. You shall steal. So you have lo tignov, which means not steal. Not you steal. Now in English it means you shall not steal. You will not steal or you shall not steal. Alright, let's move on. Now I'll be quick here. We have the first phrase, tikbots, ed anshei ha'ir. Tikbots, ed anshei ha'ir. Tikbots comes from the verb that means to gather, to gather. Because of the T prefix, it means you. You gather. Who are you going to gather? Et is giving you the object. Anshei. Anshei. Men of. Men of. It's in the construct. Anshei means men of. It comes from anashim, men. Men of the ear, of the city. You gather the men of the city. Next we have Yizkor le'olam berito. Yizkor le'olam berito. Yizkor means he'll remember. He'll remember. Le'olam, you have the preposition le, which means to. To. Olam means eternal, eternity. So when you bring to and olam, it becomes forever, for eternity. So he'll remember forever. Berito, berito. You have berit plus pronominal suffix. Remember, pronominal suffix on a noun, you're showing possession. Berito, his. That suffix means his. His berit, his covenant. His covenant. So he will remember forever his covenant. Or he will remember his covenant forever. He will remember his covenant forever. Let's move on. Next we have Lo tiktevi ed hadivarim basefer. Our focus is on tiktevi. This is a verb. And because of the T and the suffix E, this is coming from katav, and now it means you will write. You will write. Lo means not. So it becomes you will not write. You will not write. What are you going to not write? Et is pointing to the object. Hadivarim. Hadivarim. Divarim is words. Words. You will not write the words ba. Again, you have the preposition be with a swallowed definite article. So you have in the sefer, in the book. You will not write the words in the book. You will not write the words in the book. Next you have Yimlechu Hamelech Wehamaocha Birushalayim. Birushalayim. Our focus is Yimlechu. Yimlechu means they will reign. They will reign. They will reign Hamelech. Wehamaucha. So they will reign, the king and the queen. Remember, Maucha means queen. Melech means king. Maucha means queen. And after the verb, you have the subjects, the king and the queen. Birushalayim. You have in Jerusalem, you have the preposition be and Yerushalayim. So that has become be, Birushalayim, in Jerusalem. So the king and the queen will reign in Jerusalem. And the last one you have Yishmaru Hashaftim Ed Torat Elohim. Yishmaru, they will keep, who will keep? It brings the subject. Hashaftim, the judges will keep the law of God. The judges will keep the law of God. You can see that Torah is in construct, law of God, law of God. That's how you translate that one. And finally, let's look at the passage. This passage is from Judges 8 verse 23. Let's just try to analyze it a bit. Judges 8 verse 23. The passage says, Wayomer Elehem Gideon, Lo emsho ani bakem, Velo yimsho beni bakem, Yahweh yimsho bakem. Yahweh yimsho bakem. And now I want you to pay attention here because there is an exegetical insight. I just want to share with you exegetical insight here, an insight that is coming from the Hebrew. Now the phrase again is Wayomer Alehem Gideon, Lo emsho ani bakem, Velo yimsho beni bakem. Yahweh yimsho bakem. Now notice what is happening here. Just focus on the last part. Focus on the last part where you have Yahweh yimsho bakem. Yahweh yimsho bakem. Bakem means over you. Over you. Now Yahweh means Lord. Yimsho means he will rule. Bakem means over you. But notice, remember we said Hebrew has a special word order. The Hebrew word order is verb, subject, object. Verb, subject, object. But look at what we're having here. You have Yahweh, which is the subject here, and you have the verb and you have the object. You have Yahweh, subject, verb, object. Hebrew has swapped the word order here. You have subject, verb, object. When Hebrew swaps word order, it's for the purpose of emphasis. It's for the purpose of emphasis. The emphasis needs to be placed on the first noun that is coming before the verb. So whatever comes first is the one that is being emphasized. So now Gideon tells the men, and this is a story that you find in Judges 8 verse 23. After they reject Gideon, after some time, now they come to beg Gideon. They say, come and be our king, come and rule over us. And Gideon says, I will not rule over you, and my son, Velo yishmo beni bakem, and not he will rule my son over you, and my son will not rule over you. Yahweh yimsho bakem. The Lord will rule over you. And he places emphasis on Yahweh. So the emphasis here is on Yahweh. That's why word order has been swapped to place emphasis on Yahweh. So the meaning is this: God himself, not me, will rule over you. It's God is going to rule over you and not me. That's what Gideon is trying to say. You're coming to me to rule over you, but God himself will rule over you. In fact, when you're translating this, in your translation, you can say, God himself will rule over you. Or the Lord himself, Yahweh, the Lord himself will rule over you. By swapping word order, Gideon is declaring, it is Yahweh, not I, not my son, but it is God. It is the Lord who must rule over you. And this is contrasting divine kingship with human kingship. And this is what Gideon is trying to say. It is God, not I. It is God, not my son. It is the Lord who must rule over you. And that's the importance of knowing Hebrew, because there are things that can only be seen in Hebrew that cannot be seen in English. That's very important. That's why you must learn Hebrew, because there are things that can only be seen in Hebrew but not seen in English. That's important. Alright, let's move on. Let's look at chapter 14 vocabulary. These are the words that you need to know in chapter 14. Now the first one you have Aharon. Aharon. Aharon means Aaron. Aharon means Aaron. Next you have Basar. Basar. Basar, basar means flesh. Basar means flesh. It means flesh or meat or food. It means flesh or meat. Next you have Dawid. Dawid. Dawid means David. Next you have Yehuda. Yehuda. Yehuda means Judah. Next you have Maulach. 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 Maulach means angel. It means angel. Next you have Mitzvah. Mitzvah. Mitzvah means commandment. It means a command or a commandment. Next you have Neum. Neum. Neum means announcement of, declaration. It means announcement. Next you have Esau. Esau. Esau means Esau. Esau means Esau. Esau. Next you have Rea. Rea means comrade, companion, friend. If I call you my Rea, you're my friend. Rea means comrade, friend. On the verbs you have Bahar. Bahar. And that means he chose. He chose. Next you have Batach. Batach. It means he trusted. Next you have Darash. Darash. It means he sought or he investigated. He sought. Next you have Hashav. Hashav. And that means he thought. He thought or he planned. He thought or he planned. Next you have Lavash. Lavash. That means he clothed. He clothed. He put on. More like putting on a garment. He clothed. Next you have Matzah. Matzah. Matzah means he found. He found. Again, notice the verbs are in cow perfect, third masculine singular. Cow perfect, third masculine singular. That kametz patach, kametz patach. Except the last one because you have aleph. Aleph is going to lengthen the patach into kametz. Next you have adverbs. On adverbs you have kocha. Kocha. And that means so. It means thus or as follows. It means so. So, thus, as follows. Next you have me'od. Me'od. And me'od means very. It means exceedingly. And this is very important. Me'od is very important. The adverb me'od is very important. It's used with adjectives to show the superlative. When you want to say that building is very tall, or you want to say that man is very, very good, you're going to say Tov me'od me'od or Tov me'od. Tov me'od means very good. Tov me'od me'od, very, very good. So me'od is used most of the times with adjectives to show superlatives. And then you have interrogative. Interrogative, you have one there. Aume. Aume. Aume means why. Why? And so these are the words for chapter 14. You must know these. Vocabulary is very important. You must know this. And remember, practice translation. As you are learning translation, learn also the paradigm. That's very important. Remember, practice, practice, practice. Later out.